Okay, good enough. Shabbos. We are going to start as Hashem Mem Beis Amid Aleph, the new parak. Meshuch Mechama. Sagt the Mishnah. Meshuch Mechama b'Shasha Medav al Am Rosh Hakadosh Medav. When Meshuch Mechama spoke to, did we do this yesterday? Yeah, we did this yesterday. Sorry, we're not starting the new parak today. We started the new parak last night. We're starting today from Mem Beis Amid Beis on the bottom. The Atam came. The Meshuch Mechama is saying that we are not like the Goyim. We're not coming with a koyach of glura. We're coming with a koyach of physical strength. We're coming from a koyach of ruchnius, of elikus. What is this referring to? Really, that's what Rashi says. In other words, how can he make such a haftacha? All Hashem's name and all its kinuim are sitting in the arein. And the Aron is with us in Mechama. Moshe is talking about when they were fighting Midian. And Moshe sent 1,000 from each Mata, from each Shevet to war. Oisam es Pinchas, and the next part of the pasuk is Vayishlach Oisam Moshe Elef Mata L'Tzava. Oisam ve'ez Pinchas ben Elaz ben Hakayin L'Tzava u'Kli HaKodesh v'Chatzotzos HaTrua b'Yadai. So the Gemara is going to dash most of the pasuk. Oisam ve'ez Pinchas. Oisam Elu Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin went out with them. Ve'ez Pinchas ve'Zem Meshuach Mechama u'Kli HaKodesh ze'Aron v'Lucha Shavai v'Chatzotzos HaTrua Elu HaShayfis. The Shayfis from Mechama they also went out. Tana. So like this. So now that we mentioned. So that pasuk, a reference is the fact that the Aron goes with us mamish to war. And now once we mentioned about Pinchas going to war, we're saying the following member. Tana Pinchas didn't go to Mechama against Midian Stam, to get back and to enact what's the right word? Vengeance against on behalf of his mother's father. Who is that? That was Yosef Tzaddik. Shenema v'Amadanim machru Isai el Mitzrayim, and the Madanim sold Yosef into Mitzrayim, so he's getting them back. He's going to war with them. Remember, so that's affecting Gemara. Remember the Pinchas from Yosef Asi. Could you say that Pinchas is from Yosef? V'Aksiv Elaz ben Aaron Lokach b'Bnais Petiel Laila. He took a wife from Petiel. So we know that his father was from Sheva Levi. That we know. The question is where his mother's from. So he's saying that it's from Petiel. My love must be the Petiel name is the Asime Yisroi. Shapitem Agolim Avodah that he fattened cows for Avodah Zarah, and he got the name. One of his names was Pitaim or Petiel. One of his name is Petiel. Because he used to fatten calves for Avodah Zarah. And the more love Yosef Shapitpate B'Yitzroi, that he embarrassed his Yitzhara by not falling into. And not being with Eishes Petipa. But the Marba, the Shvatim used to chop Pinchas, Reisem Ben Puti. Look at this Puti, look at this Ben Puti, Ben Shapitim Avi Imai Agolim La'avodah. Your grandfather used to fatten calves for Avodah Zarah. Yeharig Nasi Mi Yisrael, and you go and kill a Nasi. You think you're such a chashuv. Ella, so the Gemara says no. So what it means is like this: if his mother's father was from Yosef, then his mother's mother was from Yosef. In other words, basically one of his mother's grandparents were from Yosef, and he has both of these. He says stam. In other words, that's why both of these members are true. Sai, the other Chava used to chapa him that his grandfather fattened calves for Avodah Zarah, and Sai he had this Indian of that he was avenging Yosef's honor. In some way, they can nami dechsev b'minois poitiel that it's spelled with a yud, which could be a lashon rabbim. Trei mashma, it's mashma two inyanim of potifel. One, like we said, that he fattened cows. One that he was befatfeit the yitzhar, that he embarrassed the yitzhar. Shmami no, it's not gonna make sense. So they dibru ha'sheitim ela lemar. Mia ish. They said the sheitim said the following, and they said this idea of who gets to go back, and we're going to spend the rest of the blot on this concept of who goes back and all the pratim of the halacha. Mila isha shabana bayis chadash v'lechanachai, who built a house but didn't get to live in it. Yelech v'yashuv lebeisai. Echad habayna bayis teven. If he built even a house of straw, beis habakar, or a house of a house for cattle. I think Beis Teven is a house for straw, not of straw. I think it's I'm not sure. Beis Teven is a house of straw probably. A house for straw. Beis Bakar, a house for cattle. Beis Eitzim, a house for wood. Beis Ha'atarais, or Stam, a storage house which is smaller than a Beis Bet and a Beis Teven and a Beis Eitzim. Whether you bought it from new or you. Let me just see how article has because that's a big nafkamina. The way it's said in the Mishnah would be mashma that it's storage because bakar is not a material to use for building, and it sticks right in between. So it's not. I think that's why I thought that it was that it was for the cattle. It was for the teven. Hold on. Yeah, it's a barn for straw. Yeah, okay. It's a barn. It's a storage for straw and it's a storage for wood. That would make sense. Okay. So we said and then Beit Ha'ataris, I guess, is for the storage. Other thing Rashi says. That's small. I guess maybe it's a smaller area. That's the chiddush. Whether you built from scratch or you bought it or you got it as a Yerusha or you got it as a gift. Either way, it is going to exempt you if it's a newly acquired house and you didn't get to live in it. You don't stay at the front lines. If you planted a vineyard and you did not mechilolay is lashon of it's that you redeemed it. So it means you didn't get to enjoy the fruits yet, which is of the fourth year. You could be paid like Ma'aser Sheni and use it as it's called Neter Avai, and we could paid and eat it in Yerushalayim, or be paid it and use the money in Yerushalayim. But if you didn't get to this stage, then you get to go back. They take out the hay. Whether you plant a kerem or even if you plant 5 trees, which is the smallest size of a so this is a crowd. Not, but kerem is a dafka vineyard, an orchard. Thank you. An orchard is this 5 trees. It's a small size. And Rashi has a picture of it. It's with one back for some reason. That it can't be 5 in a star shape. It has to be like this size, or maybe it's even that size. So we look. Whether you plant it from scratch or you take a branch and you bend it into the new ground and that becomes a new tree, or you graft. And there's certainly found that grafting is mutter. We're going to discuss it on the base. Whether you bought it, whether you bought it, you yarshin it, or you got a matana, either way you're exempt. Who's the guy that betrothed a woman, which means that they did kedushin but not nisuin, and basically she's his wife for everything, but they're not able to live together yet. Whether you married a girl who never got married before, whether you married a woman who's been married before, but for you it's a new woman, or even if someone's brother dies and leaves over a woman and he doesn't have any children and leaves over a wife, then it's still considered it's a zika, so it's still considered some sort of connection. And even if his brother died after he went to Muhammad, he goes back from it. It doesn't have to be that he died after Muhammad, but even if he died during Muhammad, everybody listens to the words of the Kayin and they go back. They don't get to go home, but they get off the front lines and they deal with logistics. They bring food and water and they fix the roads. These are the ones who do not get the exemption. If a Beis Shar is the gatehouse for the guard, which is not a place of dira because the guy just hangs out there for a few hours in the day, even if he has a 12-hour shift, but he doesn't live there. Achsandra is like an entranceway. For example, if you had like those fancy in the front of the house, there's like this port, like underneath the porch type with the pillars. So even though it looks like a building, but it's not. It's not, again, not a Beis Dira. It's just an entranceway. Umerpeses is the Arts had a great word for this. I don't know why they had to use that. No, Alexandra, they had another word for it. Umerpeses is a porch. And Neitea, Arba, Ilana is Ma'achei. So we said, so this is the ones that are not exempt as the binyan. And Neitea, Arba, Ilana, Ma'achei, V'chamisha, Ilana, Sirak. If you did four trees and not 5, so then it doesn't have the shame of an orchard, or you did even 5 trees, but of trees that do not give off any paris. Hamachzos Kushase, somebody who is Machzor the Grusha. Now it's interesting, Hamachzor Kushase very often in Shas refers to somebody who does the Be'isr. So if Reuven divorces his wife, and then his wife is, let's say, Rachel, right? Reuven divorces Rachel, Rachel marries someone else, Shimon, they're not brothers. So Reuven marries Yankel, right? And then Yankel either divorces Rachel or dies. Reuven is no longer going to marry her, but that's not, and that's what Hamachzor Kushase means. It's usually in the form of a law, but over here, Rashi specifically says that that's not what it is, and even though it's listed with a bunch of other lavim, that's not what it is. I found it interesting. Somebody who remarries his divorcee, his own ex-wife. Somebody who lives be'issa. So all these, the next ones are all prohibited unions. Which is they talk about the chiddush. Who said why is a kohen gadol even going to fight to begin with? The whole Shevet Levi shouldn't have to fight. So it's the whole the Rambam, and it's an interesting. I saw it brought down the bottom of the art scroll. I'm sorry. Any of these people who are married be'isser, even if it's their first marriage, they are not exempt. Even if you build a house exactly the way it was and where it was originally, so if someone's house falls down or they do demo and they decide they just want new bricks, but they're going to build the same exact, they're very happy with the old layout, they're going to keep it exactly the same, and they don't even add anything. They don't need an extension, nobody got married, they're just keeping it exactly the way it was. No, which is the chiddush of itself, but in that case, because it's not considered bayis chadash, it does not exempt you. Even if you build a house of the stones from Sharon, they don't go chayzer. What's the stones from Sharon? The stones from Sharon are made out of inferior clay, and they had to be rebuilt every 7 years, or twice every 7 years. So in that case, this is not a house, even if it's your first time doing it, it's not a house that has kiyum, so that doesn't exempt you. But the following cases don't even go out to the front line. Don't even go out at all. So all these cases that we mentioned, the Gemara is going to talk about it more. They go to the gvul, the boundary, the border of Eretz Yisrael. They hear this drasha and then they go back home. But the following cases, the guy doesn't move it, doesn't even pack a bag. If you move into your house, you live in it for less than a year, not the kind of you got to enjoy the 4th year, but not the year after that, or maybe not the full 4th year. Probably the year after that. If you marry your arusa, but you don't, again, within the first year of after Nisuin, the same idea. If you marry your Yavama, but you also live at home with her for a year, you should be home clean for a year. The Beisai is that Beisai. So it says, we're going to dash each word of the pasuk to something else. The Beisai is that Beisai, for it means his literal house. The simach has ishtai. The end of the pasuk says the simach is ishtai. Ashalokach lahavi asivimtai. Ein mesavkin lehem mayim umazayin ve'ein mesavkin es adrachim. They are completely exempt from the war effort. They don't have to supply food. They don't have to. They don't have to do anything. It says in the pasuk it could be that this is their own words. In other words, and they're not repeating what the Kohen said. The pasuk says that means that's the part of the speech that they added, which means until now they were just repeating what was said already. So what's v'dibra shaitim? It's talking about the words of the Meshach Chachama that they reiterate. The shaita makes sure that it's heard. They have a maybe more louder voice, so there's more people. So there's nothing about a seeming contradiction. Tanicha, the kaimadav v'shaita mashmiya. V'tanya idach kaimadav v'kaimashmiya. V'tanya idach shaita madav v'shaita mashmiya. We've said 3 different ways that this goes down. Either the kain says it and another kain repeats it, or a kain out of order. Kain says it and a shaita repeats it. Kain says it and a kain repeats it, and a shaita says it and a shaita repeats it. So which one is it? The pasuk says the nignash, that when the pasuk says the nigash, that the Kayin Gadol, the Meshach Chachama approaches the tzibur, the ad v'dibru until the words v'dibru, it says v'dibru hashaitim es ha'am, Kayin medaber v'kayin mashmiya. Until that point, the Kain says, and the Kain repeats it. Medibru v'yasu Kain medav v'shoiter mashmiya v'yasu v'elech shoiter medav v'shoiter mashmiya. So all three parts of Makayim, some parts of the speech a Kain gave and a Kain repeated, some parts of the speech a Kain gave and a shoiter repeated, and some parts of the speech the shoiter said and the shoiter repeated. Mia ish ashabana ba'is chadashana bana ashabana ainly ela. So we're going to dash in these psukim to find out exactly how we got to all the different parts of the air. How do we know that if he gets it from any other source of, if he doesn't build it with his own hands, or he's not the GC, how do we know that it's not a P'tor? Miha ish. The Miha ish is extra. Could just say Mishavana bias. Mishavana bias. Ashabana bias, ainly ela bias. Minayin the rabbis base at heaven, a base at bakar, a base at eitzim, a base at eitzarais. And lema ashabana mikal makam. It says ashabana bias. What's the pasuk say that we want to change over here? What do you want to say? What would I say instead of that? I'm not sure. Rashi doesn't explain that. Rashi only says that the Mia Ish. What's the Ashabana Bayis? Ashabana Mikal Makam. Okay, I'm not sure what the extra part of it there is. Ashabana Bayis. Okay. How about
Mishabana?
Mishabana what?
Mishabana bias.
Bias is a miyat. Ashabana is the riboy. So what should I have said? Mia ish. Mia ish ashabana.
Mishabana bias.
She yes bias chadash maybe.
Why her ish?
What?
There was no children and there was no women.
No, ish we're doing it that you get even by matana.
No, Bana is Matana.
No, ish is matana. Dr. Mara, Tanabana, Ashabana ainly ela Ashabana, Lokach b'yarish v'nitin le b'matana minayin, Tamalon miha ish. And now she says ish is ribusu. The matzi l'michtav mi Ashabana. When the like said Ashabayis bana, oh, that's the he does say it. Miksiv, it would have switched the other round. Umid like siv, Ashabayis bana, dorish bana mikamakam. That's the Joshua the Gemara. I didn't see it because it's not only Ramaskel, it's the second half of the other Ramaskel. Okay. It would have said Ashabayis bana instead of Ashabana bayis. Okay, I don't understand that deal, but right there. I remember reading Rashi before. Ainly Elabayis. Minayin the rabbis based at heaven, based at Bakar, based at Eitzim, based at rabbis. Ashabana. You could have said Ashabayis bana. Okay, mikamakam. Yachol shani marba alpha bina beis shar achsanjum repasses talmud leimer bias. The bias is the miyat. It can't just be any building; it has to be a bias. Ma bias away ledira. Avkol away ledira. Everything that you're building. All the exemptions are dira related. They have to be something that you live in. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov argues on the Tanakhama in this brisa and says no, the bias has to be kamashmai. It's not these storehouses and everything. Very simple, a house. What it means that he wasn't mechanach the house. It's prat legazin. So now we want to say that Lema could like Rabbi Yosef Glili. Rabbi Yosef Glili ha'amar v'rachel eva, when it says at the end of the passage that anyone who's scared could also leave, it means somebody who's scared from his averis, he knows that he has a packle of averis waiting for him, and averis should be yadai. So Rabbi Yosef Glili, again, according to Rabbi Yosef Glili, that says having averis would be an exemption for war. Then you don't have to say that a guy who's stole a piece of property is exempt from war, because in the Mele he's exempt. That's Ganav. That's Gazlan. Afilu tema and afilu tema basically no even according to basically he going the other tshuva dame. He paid him off, so he did tshuva the best that he could, and that's it. The aver is nimchak or whatever. The aver is not on his head anymore, so he doesn't have an issue. When you have a new issue, it's gazlan. So let it be like a lekech, and then why should he go back? Or then he should go back. Let him go back from the war because he's like a lekech. At the end of the day, he wrote him a check. And they're like, keeping to me, Kara b'tayis gazan, Like because he has because he originally he got it as a geneva or as a gazela, he does not get exempt from this house. That's a special pasuk that would even fit according to Beis Glili. Now it could be that the other man number not like Beis Glili, who holds that Averis don't get you off the hook. It could be that one of this whole shuttle, and that if he does return it, that he would go back. If he turns the money, then he would go back. Fine. Let the Gemara weiter. We have time for another shtickle? Huh?
Go ahead.
Yes, okay. How do we know that if you got it b'matana, it's also good? Same Josh as we said before. Ashenata karem. Ainly elakar minay l'rabis chamisha yilane machal va'afilu misham minin. How do we know that even that it could be 5 trees from different minin? I guess and not what ashenata karem. Asher Karam Nata, I guess it would be the same Josh as before. Right? Okay.
And Mo.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you, there's a big mila to having a kvias. Like your place in the Beis Medrash should be the same place. When you give a shir, should also be the same place.
You're saying the vibes are off because I'm facing the other way?
Yeah, no, you have to sit in the same place, like you daven in the same place, you sit in the same place when you give a shir.
Okay, noted.
But
I just didn't want to disturb the Shabbos table over there.
Next time.
It's
just the opposite. You're not disturbing the Shabbos table, you're enhancing the
Maybe I would even come to include, even if you just did 4 trees and not 5 trees, or you did trees that don't bear fruit. Has to be a karam that and those don't qualify as karam. Has to be mamish a karam, and they all have to be the same size. It has to be a full karam. This 5 trees business he doesn't hold up. I think it. I'm not sure if he has an issue with the 5 trees or no. The 5 trees should be good, but you can't mix and match ilanis. I think that's the miyat. Oh no, Karam, even more than that. Karam has to be mamash a vineyard, and an orchard doesn't let you off the hook. That's what it is. Karam, kamashmai dafka karam, and not orchard. Prat u'lamarchiv. That's come to exclude if you bend it into the ground, or you graft. We learned in our Mishnah like that. It said so the Bryce is arguing on our Mishnah. Our Mishnah is saying the Bryce is saying that you don't go out from. What's an example of a kavas heter? If you're going to say that it's a young tree and a young tree, typically his original tree that he's grafting from, or he's being bereich from, should also let him off the hook. That means it must be that he's doing. He took a young tree and he's grafting it into an old tree. So the old tree is not going to let him off the hook. The chiddush is the new tree. It's bottle, and it doesn't have the halachas of arla and Reimer din arla, and it doesn't have the halachas of arla or neter, so it shouldn't let you go out for either. The original natiyah was done for wood or to close off a fence, and in that case it's not chayiv in arla, because it wasn't meant to produce fruit. In other words, even if it's a fruit producing tree, you take an apple tree, but you plant an apple tree there just because you want apple wood, right? Or you want to plug up that hole in the fence, so you plant an apple tree. The Tran, so in that case, the text of the Gemara is that case, that tree is not Mechayiv and Arla, so L'chayr would not let you off the hook. And if you graft from that, the new tree would not let you go off the hook. The Tran, the Siyag, will the Kari is Patim and Arla, or Maishna, affect the Gemara, Maishna Yalda Bizakena de Batla, or Maishna Yalda de Loi Batla. How come we said that if you plant a new tree to an old tree, it becomes batal and it has the halachas of an old tree, but the new tree to the new tree, the new tree to the new tree that was planted for non-arla mechuyev purposes, that doesn't become batal. And the Gemara, hasam imem lav bas. You can't make an old tree new again by just thinking that it's a new tree. So you can't do anything. It's past its stage of arla. It's done. It's not chayiv arla anymore. If you decide that this tree that I just planted for apple with the maisa has geshmak apples, and I also want it for apples, then it's already chayiv arla. As soon as you decided to vote, the hamikri leperi coming, because originally it was made for pears. You're not being mechadish anything over here. You're just deciding to use it for its original purpose. Just like trees that grow on their own without you planting them, the Tanan, also chayiv arla. So it shouldn't be any worse than a chayiv arla. So when you planted lahedja not for food, only for wood, that's not chayiv arla. But if you decide that it should be for food afterwards, it shouldn't be worse than a tree that came on its own. For the Gemara, I have another teretz. Why don't we say that it's again the one teretz that we had to be miyash of these two Gemaras is that it's Elon. It's in a case where the original tree was planted for wood and the new tree was planted for food. And when I plant a new tree, that's considered a new tree that's mechoyev in Arla, and lets me off the hook. But why don't we say it's also that it's? Why don't we have another answer? We can have look when we carry Shashnei Shutim. The high hadar. In other words, that the old tree belonged to one guy. The high hadar adirei. In other words, it's two new trees, and we own both of them together. The high hadar adirei, the high hadar adirei. He goes because of his, and he goes because of his. Because he owns one tree, and I own another tree. So why does it have to be? I guess in the new tree we're both shutim. Amar Papa Zaysemeres Kerem Shoshnei Shutim Ein Chayzin Elam Allah Me'erchei Halmachama. Don't the Kerem of two shutim don't get the shutim don't get sent back from war. Each Kerem could only exempt one guy. By a guy who dies and he leaves over a wife a guy dies without any children, leaves over a wife. Even if he has 5 brothers, they all come back from the army. So why over there it's different than Shnei Shoftim? Every one of these people could technically marry her. So the gabe each person, she's considered a wife. You can't say this is my courtyard, this is my Karen, this is my vineyard. That you're mavrech a Elon with a yarak, and it's b'hai tanu, and it's according to this Tana that says it's mutter. The Tanya mavrech Elon b'yarak Rav Shimon ben Gamliel matter mishum Rav Yehuda ben Gamada ish kfar akoy v'cham oisrin ki asav Rav Dimi Rav Yechanan Hamani Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. That's Rav Elazar ben Yaakov of the Bryce of Elazar ben Yaakov. Rav Elazar ben Yaakov Ham Kerem Kamashmai. It has to be Dafka Kerem Kamashmai. So therefore, all this mavrech and Kamashmai. No, it's the same way Elazar ben Yaakov says that it has to be Kerem Mamish. Hachanami not the Kamashmai, not Natei and Mavrech or Markav Los. He's Miyashiv. The Bryce is another Tana. So we have 3 answers. One is that it's the original one was made for wood. Or that it was done from a yarak, which according to the Madam that it's mutter, or it's according to Elazar ben Yaakov that says that not the mamish and a mavrech and a markiv would not patu you. Okay, good Shabbos, and Bez Hashem we will start from Ki Asar Rav Dimi. Shabbos Kodesh.
Love you. Have a great Shabbos. Thank you so much.
Shabbos.